Thanks for the support as a channel member, Martin Cooper. Well, we're kicking off this transfer special with kind of a bad news, good news, bad news situation. Obviously, the bad news is we did miss out on the playoffs in yesterday's episode. Very disappointing. I am just about over it. But the good news is the board was still happy enough with my performance last year to offer me a new contract, the second new contract I've had since I've been here at Leamington. The bad news is I enforced a pay cut. I had been on £750 a week for the first 2 years, the first two contracts that I've had. The highest they would go for this third year, £675 a week. I have had to engage realism mode to decide what I would do in real life. And I think in the circumstances, if I want to make it as a football manager, no one else is going to hire me just yet. So I've gritted my teeth. I've accepted £675 a week. I will not be taking another pay cut from them in the future. I guess this is what I get for going over budgets and causing financial problems. Let's see what other impact it might have on the transfer window. Hello, and welcome to part 17 of Non-League to Legend. I'm Kev, and coming up on today's episode, we have our season review and transfer special at the end of what ultimately turned out to be quite a good season. We massively overachieved. We were supposed to get relegated, or supposed to be in a relegation battle again, and we missed out on the playoffs on the last day of the season after turning things around in the second half of the season when all our transfers from last summer settled in. So we've learned a number of things. The first thing that we've learned is this team's actually pretty good. And if they'd have known each other, if they'd have met previously before the season started, and they'd have played all season the way they played the second half of the season, we would have gone up as champions. We know that. So this team is pretty good. We also know that if we sign an entire squad of players in one go, it takes a long time for them to settle down and kind of effectively derail an entire season, even with a very good team. So what I need to take from that learning into this video is that we don't need to do a lot to this squad. I don't think we're going to be in a position to do a lot because we are starting to suffer from some financial issues for being stuck down in this division. So I don't think we're going to be able to do a lot anyway. But even if we have the opportunity to, it's just a few tweaks. We don't need to change loads. I would like us all to remember that as the video progresses. This should be a short one. There shouldn't be much happening. If this is a long video and I've done loads of stupid stuff, we can only assume that I've lost my mind over the course of the next few hours of recording time. Let's do the season review, shall we? So, firstly, we will look through those transfers that came in last summer. And, we know there was a lot. We signed an entirely new squad. Kelsey Mooney was the only player who stayed at the club from last season. So, lots of new faces in. Interestingly, amongst all of those transfers, signing of the season went to Jayden St. Paul, who only joined us in about February and only played 12 games. But clearly, we've got ourselves a very, very good goalkeeper here on a free transfer from Norwich. Interestingly, he wants to be a goalkeeper rather than a sweeper keeper. I'm not sure we have that reflected in the tactic at the moment. We don't. We might want to tweak that slightly to get the best out of Jayden St. Paul, who presumably is going to be a very good player, potentially National League standard. Very exciting. But he came in. To be fair, I can kind of understand why he's gone down as signing of the season. 12 appearances, only conceded 10 goals, 6 clean sheets, a 7.14. That'll do nicely. If he carries that form through into next year, we're going to be pretty solid defensively. And that's a perfect example of a player we don't need to replace. There shouldn't be any reason to sign a goalkeeper this summer. Also doing very well, David Akagbu, who was here on loan from Stoke for the season, and I think we've already secured on loan for next year. We have. So he's back. We're not going to be paying him any wages again next year. He did a 7.38, and he's only going to get better. Elliot Andrew has now agreed to a new contract as well. So he came in last summer and ended up scoring 22 league goals on a 7.13. That's great. He's here for next year. The first one of the summer signings from last year who's probably leaving is our captain, George Forsyth. He lost his place as the season went on. He's 26, so he's a bit old anyway. 2-star current ability, 2.5-star potential ability. I don't think he's the one. So he's probably someone who is going to be moving on. But the majority of the rest of these we'll be looking to keep around. One of the many Brown brothers that we've got at the club, Cameron Lewis-Brown, who is the right back. We've got a right back, a right wing, and a left back who are all called Brown. It's very complicated. But he, I think, is already in on a new contract. He is, although he's wanted by somebody. Kobe J. Chong has already got his new contract sorted. He was a good signing from last summer. Isaac Rice already has his new contract sorted. Donnell Thomas, his loan does expire from Colchester. So that could be a problem. He was a key player. That might be an area we need to strengthen. An attacking midfielder, although we have got Theodros, the youngster, who could potentially slot into that role if he continues to progress. Ben Forrest, Callum Hawkins, Billy Vigar, some of these players who came in and then didn't play a lot, these might be the ones that you would expect to see move on. Forrest only played 9 times. Hawkins played 40 times, but then got replaced by St. Paul. Vigar only 8 starts. Probably we can do better than that. Sam Cornish, I think we've already got a new contract for. Central midfielder things, they just... In the systems I use, central midfielders never seem to get a good average rating. So I'm happy with how Sam Cornish has played. Sam Packham, I don't think we need to worry about bringing back. Casey signed right towards the end of the season. There's Theodros, who's still not started a game for us, but we have given him 29 substitute appearances to try and kickstart his development after a lot of you saying last summer we should be building the team around him. I'm not so sure, based on the season he's had, that he is still only 17 years old. There's lots of time for him to develop into the kind of player we hope he would be. But then Warrington will probably move on. Hippite Patrick will definitely move on. Andrucci was a new player. And Roxburgh came in as our 3rd choice keeper, and he'll be moving on as well. So a mixed bag, but I think more good than bad last summer, and not a lot that we need to do off the back of it. We'll have a look at the squad in a second, but we were expected to... this changes. In FM22, this is broken, because it was definitely... the fight bravely against relegation, and now it's changed to avoid a relegation battle because we did better. Either way, we've massively over-exceeded against expectations. We finished 8th, 77 points. It's a very, very solid performance. Interesting to see Kettering getting relegated, who are, I think they had a pretty good season last year, if I remember rightly. Kettering, finishing 10th the season before, and then getting relegated. So we can't rest on our laurels. Things can turn around quickly, but at the moment, the board gave me an A+. We had a run to the first round of the FA Cup again, and this time losing to Lincoln, but it would be nice to get into the FA Cup proper again. A little bit disappointing in the FA Trophy, but ultimately, I'm not that bothered about the FA Cup. We have a look at our moments to remember. We had some spectacular results. That was the first time this team really looked like it could click. I know Biddeford aren't great, but putting 6 goals past anybody and seeing the selection of goal scorers we had in that team, I think it kind of was an indication that we were starting to move in the right direction. That was, I don't even remember that match, but Mooney seemed to featuring in all these, Mooney and Vigar featuring in all these key moments, and Chong with goal of the season. Can we actually see goal of the season these days? I don't think we can. Why award it if we can't see it? It's so silly. Money-wise, we know it's becoming a little bit of a mess. We didn't get as far into the FA Cup this year as we did the year before, so that's affected broadcast revenue, prize money, gate receipts, all that kind of stuff. Sponsorships are down a little bit as well, which is a little bit of a worry. Interestingly, matchday revenue is actually up. That's because we faced Lincoln and we got a bigger gate receipt split than we did on the previous cup run. I remember now. And then shirt sales, really interesting to see Andrucci come in and immediately outsell everybody else for shirts. So keep an eye on him for next year. It looks like our fans think he's going to be a star. The rest of them are roughly as expected. Andrew, Mooney, Chong and Marsh Brown, all key attacking players. But to see Andrucci outsell them all, and he's only played 5 games, and I don't think he's scored a goal for us yet. Obviously, big things expected from him. And then this is our team of the year. Hawkins in goal, who obviously is going to be moving on, but a back 4 that can stay together next year. And we've got Casey, who's in to be part of this as well now to compete. But Brown, Rice, Okagbu and Lewis Brown. Cornish and Chong in midfield. There's no reason to break them up. They've been very good for us in there. Deadfield's already gone, I think. No, Deadfield is still here. I've just forgotten he exists. He's definitely going. Thomas, we need to try and tie down to a new deal. And Marsh Brown, of course, will be here next year, as will Andrew. Andrucci will be in just there. So the only real question mark, we've got St. Paul in there. We need someone for here, whether it's Thomas, whether it's Theodros, or whether it's someone new. And then it's just a case of 4 or 5 players who can compete in these positions, because we don't have much in the way of backups behind these players. A lot of these fringe players will be leaving. I've already mentioned Casey is in as a backup centre-back, but we don't really have a backup fullback. Theodros is really our only backup player for these 3 positions. We don't really have anyone to cover out wide or cover up front. So we need 4, 5, 6 sort of fringe players who've got the potential to get better and force their way into the team. But what we really want is to be able to do first day of the season 9, 10, 11 players who were here last year, all starting on the first day of the season, and the new players forcing their way in gradually as time goes on. We don't necessarily want to bring someone in who's going to be a guaranteed first team starter immediately. The one exception to that, if we've got the money to do it, which we don't know yet, will be the one thing the squad is still lacking, is some leadership. If we can find someone to replace Forsyth in the squad, who's 26 years old, he's our club captain. If we can find someone mid-20s, plenty of experience at this level, leadership, who we can just slot in there, make him a team leader, make him the captain, just kind of galvanise this group of youngsters, then that would be a player worth throwing a little bit of money at, if we've got a little bit of money to throw. But Andrew got player of the year, Akagbu young player of the year. We already know signing of the year is St. Paul. Goal of the season to Chong. Top scorer was Elliott. Most assists, Marsh Brown from the right wing. Andrew also getting most man of the match awards. Akagbu highest average rating. I'm saying his name differently every time I try and say it. Ben Forrest, most pass completion, but we don't really care about that. We didn't win any competition awards, but we have set a number of club records. Elliot Andrew doing all sorts of goal scoring things. Worst discipline was Lewis Brown with 15 yellows and 1 red. Theodros with the youngest player. That's not going to get beaten for a long time, I don't think. And we also got our highest transfer fee received ever. Nika Liebert Hines, 1.6k. Wonder if we'll beat that anytime soon. Theodros also youngest goal scorer again. I don't expect that to be a record that gets broken anytime soon. That's our overall best 11, which looks an awful lot like this season's best 11, as you would expect. Last year we were a bit rubbish. This year we've been much, much better. Interesting to see Vigar in there, even though he's only started about 6 games for the club. But it seems to be forcing us into doing the 4-2-4 rather than the 4-2-3-1 we've used this year. And then if we just flick through all these bits and pieces, seeing if there's anything else we need to know. The board are looking for a top half finish. High tempo pressing football. See, we can't get away from it. They want high tempo pressing football. We have to do it now. Work within the wage budget is going to be a challenge. We'll figure that out. And then next year is actually avoid a relegation battle, then top half finish. That I suspect that will change based on how we've done this year. Isaac Rice has become a highly influential player at the club. So he might even be in a position to step up and become a team leader, meaning we don't need to sign someone, which would be super. End of season team meeting, we'll just tell the boys that we're going to avoid the relegation again, because you have to, I mean, it's offended some of them. Okay, let's please. There's no please. These meetings are rubbish. I wish they weren't in the game or they worked differently. That's just a summary of what we've already talked about what we might need to strengthen. And Billericay won Lewis Warrington. They can have him. He has not worked out the way I hoped he would. When he scored on the first day of the season, I was so excited about what he might become. Didn't really work out for him, really. Lewis Warrington can definitely leave. The one thing we don't have yet is budgets. Here come the budgets. So Kelsey Mooney got a bonus. We've avoided a tactics. We've made a loss. We have got some new sponsorships in. Scouting budget is very low. We'll just take the lowest scouting package, please. The board are blocking. We'll look at the budgets in a second, but the board are once again blocking a planned stadium expansion, which I think might be problematic when it comes to the league rules. Minimum stadium capacity in this league is 3,000, and our capacity is only 2,300. So I'm not really sure how we can continue to get away with this. And then drum roll, please, for the budgets. I think we had about £5,000 a week in wage budget this season just gone, and obviously no transfer budget. As long as it's not much lower than that, we'll be fine. They've increased it. I mean, we are still spending over it, but not by anywhere near as much anymore. Committed spending is below it. we're going up as champions, boys and girls. That is, quite frankly, an insane financial decision from the football club. But as I tell you all in the comments quite regularly, I'm not the finance director of this football club. It's not my job to make sure that that is all okay. My job is to succeed on the pitch, working to the budgets that they give me. And if they tell me I can spend £6,500 a week on wages, then I shall. I'll probably spend nearly 7 because they'll let me get away with that too. And that, you know, if that delivers a success on the pitch, then so be it. What is annoying me is the fact that my cough and my sore throat is back with a vengeance today. You've probably already noticed it in this video that there's lots of stuff like that happening. I'm not losing the ability to speak. I'm just trying to stifle coughs and then editing out the big ones. I was told this is a 3-week bug. It's day 19 of 3 weeks as I record this. Fingers crossed you only have to put up with this for a couple more days. I realise there's people out there who've joined the channel new for this series who've never seen me not having a cough and not moaning about having a cold. That day will come and I can talk normally. You just haven't seen it yet. Let's just, I think I've already renewed all the contracts I want to renew. It kind of is a waiting game from here. We are just waiting for the 1st of July because then this bunch of players leave us and we can start bringing in trials for the next bunch. If anything happens before then, if the perfect player emerges and we bring them in early, then I'll show you it. But in all likelihood, you're probably about to see nearly 2 months of time pass just like that. Well, we have made it through to the 1st of July. There are a few bits and bobs that have gone on before we get started on bringing in the trialists. Firstly, Sam Packham. We did actually try and bring him back on loan for another season, but he refused the loan, so he is definitely not coming back. We've got a few players that we've sold. In fact, I'll show you those before we show the ones that have released. So I say sold, it's players who are out of contract who we've just secured clubs for before their transfers expired to save us a little bit of money. So Lewis Warrington went to Alfreton, Sam Deadfield went to Chippenham, Ben Forrest to Weymouth, and then at the end of their contracts, oh, hold on, are we doing coaching courses? Let's see if I can get on one before we put him on one. I'll try us both, obviously, but I'm currently on my Continental C, so I have been working through them when they let me, but they don't let me very often. In fact, they've got him in first. Right, released players, as we mentioned, it's those ones from before, so Hill, Hawkins, Roxburgh, Hippolyte, Patrick, Forsyth, Vigor, and Ondo have all left the club, as well as some of the young players that haven't made it up into the first team as well. It all means that we've got quite a lot of spare wage budget on our £6,500 budget. We're only spending 3.8k, although we have committed spending of 4 because we've got a player that we're trying to bring in, just the one at the moment. He's probably not going to get a work permit. In fact, work permits are going to be a killer this summer. Now we're at that point where work permits are going to be a thing. It's £20,000 per work permit. We're going to have to think very carefully about applying for work permits frivolously. We've already had one player earlier in the summer who he's not showing up anymore because it was obviously too far in the past, but he would have been much, much better than anyone else we had in midfield. He was a free transfer available from Forest. He agreed to come, but then failed his work permit. So we spent £20,000 on a player that we then weren't able to sign. We're likely to now do the same thing for Joel Lopez. If that one fails as well, I mean, even paying that money for work permits and then using the players might be a bad idea in our financial situation. This might be a repeat of the language course thing that we had in Born in the USA last year. We might just have to go for players that don't need work permits, but we'll worry about that as we start to get players in on trial. This is our squad. We have got a few players down in the under 18s. I don't think... Oh, in fact, they've moved up to the under 23. So there's a few of our name in the game players who can potentially come up and join these boys. The latest to join the club this summer was Stephen Paul, who is a striker / winger. So he's a new name in the game player. We've got a lot of the other ones who were from there before. If you want your own name in the game, have a look at the join button. The options on there. You can choose a youth player further on in the save. But that's where the ones that have currently been chosen are existing. None of them really ready for the first team yet, although Chipman and Paul, if we sort that by ability, they're probably the nearest at the moment, both young strikers as well. So very much worth keeping an eye on the two of them, especially Paul, who seems very quick. I like quick. Quick is good. But as none of them are really ready, this is our entire squad as it currently stands. That's with Levi Lenton just being moved up from the youth team as well to be our backup goalkeeper, who's been here since the start of the game, actually. So we now have 2 originals in the squad, and that gives us a squad of 16 players with, what did we say, about £2,000 a week to spend? I think we want to get that up to like 22, 23 people. So what's that? 6 or 7 new signings. So we're looking at, if we're doing 6 or 7 new signings on similar wages to what we've got now, the numbers all add up. It looks like it should work. Positionally, what we're going to do, assuming we're going to stick with this tactic, which I don't see why we wouldn't. Okagbu's so much better than everyone else. It's ridiculous. But I think we definitely need another body in midfield. We've got Cornish and Chong, but no one really behind them apart from Theodros, who really is up here. Thomas has agreed to come back on loan for another year for nothing, which is a big bonus. I think we need a player or 2 in central midfield. And we probably need 1 more centre-back, a full-back on each side, a backup goalkeeper. And then if we could bring in a player who can play anywhere across the front 3, similar to what Vigar could do last year, maybe someone else who could play in here as well. And then I think that's probably the 6 or 7 players, but it's all going to be dictated based on what we can find now available for free. So I will go away, bring in a bunch of trials as ever, using the players that we've previously scouted and director of football recommendations to bring in a bunch of trialists. And as and when they sign, I'll show you who we've got. Well, I think we might have been aiming a bit too high with our first batch of trialists. We offered for about 8 or 9 players in the end. The vast majority of them have gone on to sign for National League or League 2 clubs. So, yeah, we might have been aiming a little bit too high. We did manage to squeeze one of them in. No, Max Waltman is a 19-year-old English striker who can play anywhere across the attacking midfield 3 as well. So it was kind of the last player we needed to add in on that little summary I did before. But I think he's going to be really, really good for us. He's potentially a League 2 player in future, which is, I think, better than any other player we've got potential-wise at the club. But he's the best player we've got, in according to star ratings, in any of those 4 attacking positions. He was at Liverpool previously. He's never played a game, so he's not necessarily ready to step straight into the team. But certainly potential-wise, he is... I mean, we've actually got a lot of high-potential players. Nice. Yeah. 1 player in, we now do another round of trials, because none of this lot, I mean, I guess there are a few still knocking around the club, but not any that are going to make a massive difference to us. These are the ones that kind of got rejected on the first round, although looking at someone like him, even after the 2 or 3 that we wanted ahead of him have been rejected, he's probably still better than anyone else we've got in midfield at the moment, although he's not really the double pivot kind of player that we want in there. I'll have a look. I think we need more trialists in. I think we've already offered this guy a contract. Maybe we haven't. I thought we'd already looked at him. More trialists to come. I mean, you all knew this was going to happen. I've got a little bit overexcited with some of these players and signed 2 or 3 more than I should have done. We've gone a smidgen over the wage budget. We are going to try and fix that. I also only have 1 left back in the squad, which we also need to try and fix, probably with a loan. But I think you only seen Max Waltman. I then brought in, I mean, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 more. But we signed 11 players. We've signed an entire new first team. It's uncontrollable. It really is. Korede Adedoyin is a 22-year-old Nigerian striker. We've not actually signed him to play up front. We've signed him because we want him to use him out wide. He can play on either wing. We've got a lot of players in the squad now who can play anywhere in the front 3, front 4. And Adeodin is definitely going to be one of those. Adedoyin. Got to learn to say his name properly. Leading player in our league. This is why we've signed a lot of these. Good EFL League 2 player in the future. We've signed a lot of players based on their potential. On not an incredible amount of money. We're still not going over our £300 a week limit that we've put on transfers all the way through. And I just can't resist a player who's got League 2, League 1 potential. And there are a few of them. knocking around the place. So he's one. Zach Mayer is a 20-year-old Welsh central midfielder or attacking midfielder. We've signed him primarily to use central midfield. We might be using him attacking midfield, though, based on some of the other players we signed since. But he is, I mean, as you can see, he'd be our third best central midfielder, second best attacking midfielder. But the key thing, again, potential League Two standard. He's previously of Newport, but had a season on loan at Telford last year. 8 goal contributions, not too shabby in our league, and lots of potential to continue to get better. Gwynfor Young is an 18-year-old centre-back who's been brought in, again, mainly for potential. Nice and cheap, only £100 a week, 2-star current ability, 4.5-star potential. So this is the kind of player we were supposed to be targeting. It just turns out that a lot of them are players who are probably a little bit closer to being ready for the first team, but he's got League Two potential and not quite ready for the first team, so won't disrupt that squad that we've got at the moment. That's the kind of player we should have been signing. We just didn't sign very many of them. Harvey Rhodes is an 18-year-old right-back who can also play centre-back at 6'1". We might use him at centre-back, but to be honest, he's pretty quick, and I'll probably use him just to get up and down this right-hand side, especially with the lack of left-backs in the squad. I'm thinking of sending one of the Brown brothers over to train to play at right-back. I forget which one it is. It's one of the double-barreled Browns, but he's left-footed, so we're going to train him to play left-back. That's part of the plan, and Harvey Rhodes can be in as a right-back. Lewis Brown, he's the one who's training to play as a left-back for us because he is left-footed, so he can play over there at left-back if needed. That's the thinking. But Rhodes is formerly of Aston Villa. We've got a nice little local-ish link with Aston Villa up and running. There's a theme on a lot of these players coming in. A lot of them are either from Villa or from Wales. They seem to be the two places we've really abused with the scouting this summer. Just to prove that, we've got Harvey Cullinan, who's from neither of them and is Irish. But he is centre-back, closer to being first-team ready. 3-star current ability, 5-star potential. Again, he's got that League Two potential, which excites me so much. Previously, of Sheffield United, was on loan at Cobb Ramblers in the League of Ireland last year, and now joining up with us. Another Welsh player, an under-19 international this time, Anna in Livermore, 20 years old, central midfielder who can also play as a DM or an attacking midfielder. But definitely we've got him here to play as a central midfielder. Not sure I'd like a DM with 7 tackling, but you know what I'm like, I probably would. He's officially our best central midfielder, National League standard player. This is a player who is currently good enough for the league above and should end up good enough for the league above that too. Was playing for Newport in the National League last year, was playing for Newport in League Two the year before. I mean, he's not been a regular starter in either of those seasons, but this is a player with 42 matches at a higher level than what we're currently playing at in his career so far, and he's still only 20 years old. I think that's a cracking signing. Ryan Colvin is an Austrian centre-back with a name like Ryan Colvin. Born in Vienna, he has got English as a second nationality. He's formerly of Bolton, Telford, Eastleigh, and Shabab Al Ali in Dubai, which is, so he was born in Vienna, came up through the youth team in Dubai. His family have moved around a lot, haven't they? Now settling in Leamington, apparently. 6'2" centre-back, 3 under-21 caps for Austria. I assume they're for Austria, not for England. Yeah, Austrian under-21 caps. 3.5-star current ability, 4.5-star potential, and is another one who is National League standard now, should be good enough to play in League Two eventually. Scott Smith, another Welsh midfield player, 22 years old, 3.5-star current ability, 4.5-star potential, leading National League North player, should be a League Two player in future, already almost as good as Livermore. We've got some real competition for places in this team this season. Jordan McAneff, 22-year-old Northern Irish under-21 international. He's an attacking midfielder, but we've brought him in mainly to play out wide. It's a bit of a thing. We've not really signed much in the way of wingers, but we've signed a lot of players who can play out on the wings. So that's probably where you're likely to see McAneff playing. Well, he can play central midfield as well. He's just a bit of a utility player, really. Another one who's a leading National League North player now. Good League One player in future. Very, very exciting. Formerly of Arsenal. And then lastly, Philip Marshall is a 20-year-old Polish under-21 international who we avoided the work permit for because he has English as a second nationality. He's 3-star current ability, 5-star potential, formerly of Aston Villa, and is another one who's got League One potential. So absolutely stacks of potential in this squad now. Like I say, we have gone over the wage budget a little bit, and we now find ourselves with a first-team squad of 26 players, and only one of them can play left back. So it's a little bit bloated. It's a little bit unbalanced. If we have a look on here, I mean, you can see that really emphasizes that point. I think we probably need to move a few of these players on and then look to bring in certainly a loan at left back. And I don't think there's much in the way of other gaps that need filling. This is what I'm talking about players who can play out wide, being used out wide. Waltman, Adedoyan, McInnes, none of them are natural wingers, but they can all play there and will be converted into wingers as the season goes on. We also have the option of switching to a diamond, which is a system we've used in the stream save that I've got going on at the moment. I'm streaming most afternoons at the moment, twitch.tv/LOLLUJO, and we've been using a diamond there to a lot of success. So if we do decide to shuffle things around, which I'm not going to do immediately because this system was working so well for us last year, but if we do shuffle things around, we could do Waltman, Adedoyan, Mooney, Andrew as 4 options as strikers. We've got plenty of players who can play attacking midfielder, and several of these can play as a defensive midfielder. We can just bin off the idea of playing with wingers, because really the only natural winger we've got at the club now is Marsh Brown. And even he can probably be converted to play in midfield if we absolutely had to. So, like I say, a little bit unbalanced. We're going to try and move a few of these players on. I mean, easy first port of call is Levi Lenton can go back down into the 23s because he's not needed in that first team squad now. Theodros might struggle to get game time this year. It might be time to send him out on loan to get some game time. If we shuffle by star rating on current ability, you can see we've got a little group at the bottom here. Familiar faces from last year, a lot of them, who might not be good enough for the new team, but will probably get an opportunity. Kobe J. Chong, as an example of that, was great for us last year, but has kind of been surpassed by a lot of these players that have come in. But I'm not desperate to bin these players off and move them on. I think we'll just kind of see how the season starts to settle down. I mean, this to me seems like a team that should be getting promoted quite comfortably. Yeah, and it's reflected in the media prediction. We're in second place. We've actually got a player in the Dream 11 as well, in the shape of a Kagbu. He's not ours, is he? No, Boston just playing the same kits as us, apparently. We have one player in the Dream 11. We're the second best team in the league, supposedly. We are looking for a good season this year. We do need to find a left back on loan, though. So I'm going to go and try and do that before the season starts. If we get any offers, we've still got like nearly a month before the season starts. If we get any offers for any of these players down this end who were good last year, like we've turned down offers earlier this summer for the likes of Andrew, and I think we turned down an offer for Mooney. In fact, there's Mooney and Lewis. I mean, Lewis Brown we need because he's going to be training to play left back. But if someone wants to make another offer for Kelsey Mooney, we probably are open to letting him go now to ease wage budget concerns, because we can't bring in anyone else permanent now. This left back is going to have to be a loan that costs us nothing. Let's hope such a thing exists. One of these 3 boys is probably going to be joining us on loan to play left back. Well, reserve left back. There's another Brown. I mean, it's got to be him, hasn't it? Easy decision. We can have a 4th Brown. Good news, boys and girls. Joe Brown is in. We are now a 4 Brown club. 3 Brown fullbacks. Two left backs called Brown. It's amazing stuff. He's not very good. 2-star current ability. He's got 5-star potential. He'll be fine as a backup for us on loan from Bolton for nothing until the end of the season. If we have a little look at our squad depth now on the depth chart, we are pretty well covered. We've got 2 good goalkeepers, 1 good, 1 average left back, 2 great, 4 good, 1 average centre back, 2 good right backs. If we decide to switch to a diamond, and I'll show you the diamond that we're training in a minute, and we've got 1 great, 2 good DMs. Central midfield, we're well covered. Out wide, we're well covered. I'm not going to read all of these. You can read these yourself. It'll be fine. But plenty of players who are great or good in all of these different positions. And then training-wise, we've obviously still got the 4-2-3-1, which we'll be starting the season with. And we've just kind of, in fact, we've copied over the original one that didn't have all the stuff taken off of it. So we're going to adjust some of this stuff off again. So we'll take the width down a little bit. What else did we change as the season went on? Take long kicks rather than take short kicks. And yeah. Did we change anything else? Did we drop the defensive line? I can't remember what we tweaked in the end. It looks like the out of possession stuff is exactly the same. So it's a diamond that will look a little bit like this. Like I say, I'm not anticipating that we're going to use it because I think this will work. But it's nice to have a plan B. And we've got so many strikers at the club now that it might be nice to use a system that involves them both. Let's make sure that's when we're training. It is. Excellent. Now we just wait for the start of the new season. Well, we've made it through to the first day of the season. I am hoping this isn't going to be a problem. The club atmosphere is very good managerial support. We are down at average team cohesion. I think we were below average this time last year. I think with the quality of players that we've got, we might be able to get around that by not changing the team too much initially. We have appointed Isaac Rice as club captain, as our most highly influential player. Sam Cornish is the new vice captain. So we're starting to get a few more influential players come through. And we're going to pretend the money situation doesn't exist. To be fair, we've moved some scouting budget into transfer budget, then into wage budget. We're not actually a million miles away on wage budget. I think if we let one of these players go, which we probably will at some point over the season, there'll be someone who gets fed up and wants to leave. We're fighting off offers for Theodros, but everybody else, no bites yet. But I think there'll be, if we look at the wages, someone like Cornish or Mooney, I think there'll be an offer for somebody like that over the course of this season, and they'll probably move on and we'll be back within the wage budget again and it'll be fine. So that's the plan. This is the team without trying to change too much in one go. So we stay with St. Paul initially. And then it's a very familiar looking back four. Brown, Rice, Okagbu, and then the new boy Rhodes in at right back. Smith, Livermore, and McAnuff as a very new look midfield three. But Andrucci and Andrew were here last year, although Andrucci obviously only joined towards the end of the year and only played 6 games. And then Waltman can play out on that right-hand side. We've got more familiar faces down the bench. Marsh Brown and Chong are both there to come on if need be with some of the new boys as well. And we'll see how we get on. I hope that the media prediction is right and we are the second best team in this league. How did Kidderminster do last year? Kidderminster finished second last year. Yikes. That's not ideal. So they finished second last year and presumably have got even better. If we just go and have a look at last season. So Kidderminster did miss out to Gateshead, who Gateshead are the team who beat us second to last game of the season to keep us out of the playoffs. So I guess we could argue we only got beaten by the team that ultimately got promoted. Fylde being out of the way is a good thing, but Kidderminster got over 100 points and 100 goals last year. They'll be feeling pretty confident about going up as champions. And it's going to be, we've got to start well. We can't afford to start slowly if we're going to keep pace with them. Because as they showed last year, even 100 points and 100 goals isn't enough to get promoted necessarily. We need a very good season. We can't have a 4th year down in tier 6, or else I'm going to get a reputation as not very good. And I couldn't cope with it. I'm very good. I'm very good. If you've enjoyed that, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for daily Football Manager videos. And thank you very much for watching.